we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to day 3 of our virtual wellness summit. Today's pillar of health is nutrition, and I'm super excited to introduce Molly Kimbal and Maria Terry, who are both here from Ochsner EatFit, to share expert tips with us today. So I wanted to thank them both. And just before I hand it over to them, I'm going to thank our sponsors as well. So thank you to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Louisiana for being the presenting sponsor of the Live Well Jefferson campaign as well as the summit. And then thank you to Biz New Orleans, Entergy Louisiana, event producers, Latrim, Louisiana Public Health Institute, West Jefferson Medical Center, Ochsner Health, and Tulane Lakeside for being our wellness patrons. And they sponsor the Live Well Jefferson campaign as well as this summit. So thank you all for your support and participation. And now I'm going to hand it over to today's speakers.
Yes, thank you. So thanks for having us. As mentioned, I am registered dietitian Molly Kimbal.
And I am registered dietitian Maria Sylvester Terry.
We are actually here together in separate spaces, separate cameras, because we wanted to be able to do this together. It's some interactive that we'll be doing. And we're working off of one audio. So yeah, I think we've got it all figured out. So we don't have some feedback here. But we're talking about, so you also see us looking at each other off camera, which is why I say that, because I may be looking over here as if Maria's there. So we'll be talking about a lot of different stuff with y'all. We're going to be talking about a bit about EatFit, because while we have your attention, we want to share with you some of the really cool things that we're doing in the community. We'll talk about how we work with our EatFit partners. We're also going to talk a lot about breakfast and how to really maximize breakfast. And breakfast, if someone says, but wait, I'm intermittent fasting, why am I tuning into this? Breakfast can be at any time of the day that you want it. Breakfast can be your own interpretation of breakfast. But we're going to be talking about breakfast, and especially how can we strategize to get more protein in at breakfast? That's just sort of consistently one of the things that is a challenge for people. And then Maria has a really cool recipe she's going to be showing y'all of demonstrating some easy tips that she does. And she was actually eating it in our staff meeting yesterday, this really yummy breakfast that she's got for y'all. And then we're going to be doing a fun little demo about we'll talk about some of the coffee creamers and sort of the myths of what's out there that people think is healthy and aren't. So if you're a coffee person, especially if you like flavored coffee, we're going to be touching on that, and then which ones we actually prefer instead. So with that, I'll give you just a bit about EatFit. If you're not familiar, EatFit is a nonprofit initiative of Ochsner Health. And we have been around since 2013. We started here in New Orleans with EatFit NOLA, and we've expanded now. So we have EatFit in 6 regions across the state. So started EatFit NOLA, really grassroots of, the concept behind EatFit is basically, how do we help the community make the healthy choice the easy choice? How do we take the guesswork out of making these nutritious choices when we're out living our life? Because if someone's doing their meal prep, if they've kind of got everything together, they're going to the grocery store, they're doing all this, and they're in charge of their meals and snacks, that's one thing. But when we start going out and living our life, all bets are off. So how can we make this as easy as possible for people to live their strongest, healthiest lives possible? So the idea was, let's start working with restaurants. Local restaurants incorporate nutritious items onto menus. It's got to be free. As we know, our local restaurants don't really have a big budget to pay for this. It's got to be free. It's got to be easy. So we work with the chefs. We work with the restaurant owners to incorporate. Maria will be sharing more about what our actual process is on this. And ultimately, we end up with the EatFit seal that guides people. So restaurants are our main partners. I mentioned that we're in 6 regions across the state. So EatFit NOLA, also EatFit Baton Rouge, EatFit North Shore, EatFit Acadiana, EatFit Shreveport, and EatFit Monroe. We were fortunate to have a grant by Blue Cross Blue Shield that helped to fund that expansion and kind of let us prove the effectiveness and that this is something that actually we're moving the needle. And so we have over 500 restaurant partners across these 6 regions, which was really, really cool for us as a small group of dietitians to have seen this growth. So in addition to restaurants, we will have EatFit in markets and corner stores, grocery stores. We have it in a handful of schools, festivals. So if y'all go to places like French Quarter Fest, you'll see it on the festival menu boards. So that's kind of our goal, is wherever there's food available, we want to try to have that healthy option identified. So one big ask that we would have of y'all is, if you have that connection with restaurants, if you have that tie, when they're hearing it from the community, they want to be involved. When we say it, they're sort of like, I don't know, it's a dietitian saying we want to do healthy. But when they start to hear it from their community, it just makes all the difference in the world. So that's a big ask that we would have of you. And I'll turn it over to Maria.
Sure.
To share the what.
Great. So EatFit NOLA is its own region. It covers Kenner, Metairie, New Orleans, and the West Bank. So we have about 200 participating restaurants, a little bit over 200. But in terms of unique locations, it looks like about 120, 130. And so what that means is you can go to multiple Bud's Broilers. You can go to multiple Smoothie Kings and find that same reliable EatFit item that matches the nutrition facts that we as a team of dietitians have analyzed. You're probably wondering, well, when I go out to eat, sometimes I don't want to know the calories. And honestly, sometimes neither do we. And so what's really nice is if you are looking for calories, carbs, sodium, saturated fat, we provide that information to the public and to the restaurants for free. And you can find that information on the EatFit app. So one big takeaway I want you to get today is to download the free EatFit app. It is in the Google Play Store as well as in the Apple App Store. And what that allows you to do is to create an account, either a guest account or your own personalized account for your nutrition goals. And you can see based on where you are right now, where you're standing right now, the closest EatFit restaurant partner. So as you're scrolling through the app, you'll notice not only do we have the restaurants and their EatFit dishes and their nutrition facts available, but you can also use the app for other nutritional guides, such as a shopping guide, so shopping guides for multiple markets like Molly shared. We have lots of EatFit recipes, hundreds of EatFit approved recipes for things that you can make at home, just like something I'm going to share with you today. We also have apparel. If you love my shirt, you can rep it as well. We have lots of ways for you to get involved in nutrition and wellness in a way that feels good for you. Know that the app is there if you want it, but it might not be something that you feel like you need, in which case you can go to any of our restaurant partners and look for the EatFit seal on the menu. Some folks are now doing digital menus, so we are working towards making sure that seal or the notation of an EatFit item is there and clear for you. Because if it's not clear for you, then we're not taking the guesswork out. So this is something that's really helpful for you if you're looking to lower your sodium intake, which feels impossible when you're dining out. Like, how am I going to do that? My chef is trying to make this a really tasty meal for right now, not focused on my health. Well, our EatFit chefs are. They are focused on your longevity and providing you that incredible, delicious dish right in that moment. So where could you find EatFit that might be a little surprising? So any of our LeBlanc and Smith restaurant partners like Cabin and the Chloe, we're working with the Chloe to have more EatFit options. The Cabin has incredible, delicious EatFit options for you that don't seem EatFit. And then you're going to want to download the app and just double check because you're going to be so surprised. Commander's Palace. So you can take your friends, your family out for a classic New Orleans dish or a lunch with your martinis and your good stuff, and know that you can get an EatFit cocktail, an EatFit salad, an EatFit entree, an EatFit dessert. You can have options for you and feel good. There's nothing worse than having family come into town and you take them out for gumbo after, fried chicken after whatever you're having. And then you get to the po' boy and you're just like, I can't keep doing these New Orleans classics every weekend when my friends come into town. EatFit is there for you as an option. What's also exciting is as we open up and the world opens up, we also have festivals, and EatFit loves to get involved with our festivals. So just recently, we had our Creole Tomato Fest, and we had 3 participating restaurants that offered a Creole tomato dish, as well as offered demos that you could watch virtually, so that you could see how to make those dishes. And also when you go to the restaurant, you're getting a hearty, healthy dish that uses fresh Creole tomatoes. You can also look for the EatFit seal at French Quarter Fest. We'll have participating restaurants there and vendors there as well. And we have a hidden menu at Jazz Fest. So if you want the in on that, you can also follow us on Instagram and EatFit NOLA for those details. If you're not an Instagrammer, you can find us on Facebook. And lastly, we have an incredible resource for you that comes out every Friday. I am actually the one who writes it. I run social media for the entire state for EatFit, and I write the EatFit Wellness Bites newsletter. It is a quick and easy newsletter filled with links and resources where you can see exactly what you need to know, what's new in nutrition news, what's happening in a different region. Maybe you have a friend who lives in Baton Rouge. We have options to share with you, and it comes right to your email every Friday at 10 a.m. And we can share the link with Alex so that she can get you on our mailing list. You would be one of tens of thousands of people that get that email. So we want you in the know. We're here to provide you with the information that guides you to live your best life, and nutrition looks different for everyone, and we honor that. But we're here to just make it a little bit easier, and hopefully by the end of the session, you feel like a little bit more fun too.
Well, sweet. Yeah, it's super, like it's for us, it's incredibly rewarding. As I listen to Maria share all this, it's things obviously that I know. I'm like, wow, this is just really cool when you hear all of these resources kind of bundled up together. So shifting gears a bit, and we with both of us too, we can kind of monitor the chat. So if we do have questions, some we may pause to wait till the end, depending on the question. But if you do have something that we're not being super clear on, by all means, ask. So as we're shifting gears to breakfast and getting more protein in at breakfast, there's so many different ways you can do this. But first, when we look at like, why does it matter? Why does protein matter? When we think about how foods behave and how foods behave when we're eating them, especially at breakfast, we're coming off of that overnight fast. We don't really have anything. Most of us probably don't have anything in our bellies at that time. And again, we're talking a standard day. Let's just talk for the purposes of this. We're not talking someone who works the overnight shifts. You know, we're not talking that. We're not talking right now intermittent fasting. We're talking just normally, if you're waking up, you're coming over off of that overnight fast, you're looking at breakfast. Or let's say you are doing intermittent fasting, whenever that first window is, because same thing, you don't have anything on your belly. If we put in just carbohydrates, and let's say specifically just refined carbohydrates, it's no secret of what that does to us, to our blood sugar. We know that it's that rapid spike, that rapid surge, blood sugar, insulin, and then it's followed, that might feel good right away, but then it's followed by that plummet. And so what a lot of people may not be completely aware of, but it's just happening anyway, is that if we, for that breakfast meal or that first meal, if we're choosing things that are heavily refined, heavily processed, and they digest very quickly. So we're revving ourselves up, but then within an hour, 2 hours, we're ravenous. Our blood sugars are dropping, our energy, we get kind of that foggy thinking. So we don't have that clarity. It's not giving us that staying power. So what we really want is we want to fuel our bodies with things that are just that are fueling our bodies. And so obviously we want to find things that we like and all of that, but there's so many foods on the planet. You can find something that you like that's going to kind of fit this bill. So is it to say that we don't ever want to have those white refined carbohydrates? If you're coming to New Orleans, you're treating someone in the city who's visiting the city. And like my husband, when my friend Amy comes in town, Brad loves it because it's always his time he's going to go get beignets, because he can count on my friend Amy. Like, she's going to join him for beignets for breakfast, but he feels it. He'll be like, gosh, I'm starting to see stars like that. I'm like, yes, because you had donuts for breakfast. So normally when we say, okay, well, what do we want? We want to have things that are whole grain, they're fiber rich. If they're not whole grain, maybe we're getting that fiber from fresh fruit, fresh berries. And when we think about fiber rich fruits, something like raspberries are one of the most fiber packed fruits. But then there's the obvious. You think of it, you can feel it as you eat it. Apples, pears, these things are very fiber rich. So when we look at, okay, how do we get our fiber? It could be whole grains, it could be that fresh fruit, but protein and fats, and preferably plant-based fats when we can. So as much as possible, when we can make that shift and do plant-based versus the other kind. I'm actually gonna plug this guy in. I don't know if we can adjust this. Hold on for a minute, guys. I went to a low battery note. I forgot to have it plugged in. All right, here we are. I think we should be all set.
Yes, you're good.
Okay. Everything on my screen just went dark. So fortunately I had the thing here. I just forgot to plug it in. So when we look at, okay, plant-based fats, as much as possible, we want to do that. But protein is really something that can easily fit into breakfast, but we have to strategize and think of it. So when you think of the things that people often grab and go out the door, or things that they're maybe getting at that coffee shop, a lot of times at a coffee shop, it might be a muffin or some of these breads that look like zucchini bread, and you feel like you're doing a good thing, but they're still just really maybe high sugar white breads. But things that people might grab might be just that bagel, just a carton of yogurt that might be a sugary yogurt, a cereal that might be marketed as if it's a healthy whole grain cereal, but it isn't really. And then maybe we're having that with milk and juice, but we're really not getting that much protein in there, and it's a lot of just carbs. So when we think about it, the easy things to grab tend to be carbs. That also goes for snacks around the office, what's in the office kitchen or the vending machine or the things that people keep in their desk. They tend to be carbs. And so not that we're not going to have those, but let's round them out with that protein. So that brings us to, how do we fit in more protein at breakfast? It all depends on what your thing is. Like what is your breakfast kind of choice? So let's start with something like cereal. We kind of gave that example. So if you're a cereal eater, the sad news on that is that most cereals are not very high protein. but you can find a cereal that's high fiber, and then you can find other ways to add your protein. So milk normally has about 8 grams of protein per cup. It also has about 12 grams of carbohydrate per cup. But if you're kind of trying to budget it and you go, well, gosh, my cereal is already giving me 30, 40 grams of carbohydrate, because it is, or many of them are, then you may say, well, let me go for a lower protein milk. And there's actually now several different types of milks that are ultra filtered. You'll see it called ultra filtered, and they actually have less sugar, less carbs, but they still have all that protein in there. So you're getting that protein benefit, but less sugar, less carbs. And you might see them brands like Fairlife or Maple Hill or others. And so that's something that, okay, we can pair that with that cereal. What some people like, and this is a love it or hate it, you can take your regular milk, whatever it is, just your regular milk, or if you're one that uses unsweetened almond milk, things like unsweetened almond milk or unsweetened coconut milk, they're very low carb. They tend to be very low calorie, but they're also very low protein. So if you are using almond milk or coconut milk, you're not getting the benefit of protein you normally get through milk. You could take a scoop of your protein powder, plant-based or whey-based or whatever it might be, dissolve it first. You don't want to just pour that over your cereal, or you're going to have this like clumpy, dry, powdery mess. Kind of make a little slurry with your milk. So whatever your milk is, dissolve it in there, pour it over there. I had a guy who loved to do it with chocolate protein powder because he said it was like eating Cocoa Puffs for breakfast. I was like, well, whatever works. So you may say, well, that's not really my thing. That doesn't sound good, but you can take that strategy and put that over your oatmeal. What Maria is going to be showing you is an overnight oats that you don't even have to cook, but you would also, she's got all these creative ways to add protein. If you're like, okay, cereal's not my thing. I'm just a coffee person in the morning. I like just a cup of coffee. I don't really want to eat anything. You can still make your coffee work for you. And so there's different ways, like you can do coffee concentrate and like kind of an iced coffee or cold brew, throw that into a smoothie, make it like what you would get like a Frappuccino at Starbucks. That's going to be a lot of the frozen blended coffee drinks. So typically going to be really high sugar, but you can make your own with whatever your milk of choice is, that coffee concentrate, your source of protein. Again, it could be protein powder, depending on what you're going for. You could also put in a Greek yogurt, add ice and blend it. Now you have this frozen thing happening. Collagen is really hot these days, and collagen dissolves really well. So people may do collagen coffee, and they're like, is that breakfast? Is it giving you your vitamins, minerals, and all that stuff from the fruits? No, but is it better than just heading out with coffee? Yes. So thinking of like what your thing is. If you are a toast or bagel with sugar-free preserves, swap that out, or waffle with sugar-free honey or sugar-free syrup, swap that sugar-free topping for whatever your nut butter of choice is. So almond butter or peanut butter on that whole grain waffle or bagel or toast. Or if you're doing something like avocado toast, try throwing an egg on there. If someone's vegan or looking for plant-based, you could sprinkle a little bit of nutritional yeast on that avocado toast. Even something like cheese toast, a good whole grain bread with the type of a cheese you like, thin slice of that, melt it as your cheese toast, you can be out the door. So if there's ways that you're thinking, okay, what am I eating? If you're having oatmeal and toast, they might both be whole grains, but it's carb and carb. So maybe one or the other, and then throwing in the almond butter, peanut butter, eggs, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, cheese. There's a laundry list of things. If we're looking for plant-based options, if someone says, well, I don't do dairy, I'm trying to avoid animal products, or you can't for whatever reason, or you're simply looking for a vegan plant-based option, there's a lot of plant-based yogurts on the market now. Kite Hill is one that actually have low sugar, high protein options. Be aware though that most plant-based yogurts, a lot of sugar, not a lot of protein, but there are now at least 2 to 3 brands that have that shift. So there's options out there. You just have to seek them out. And it's not typically the stuff we're reaching for without thinking. So if someone is like, I like to do my meal prep on the weekends, you can do eggs, mix up some eggs, some extra egg whites. That's where you can throw a whole bunch of veggies in, put that into your muffin tin, a little bit of cheese or not, bake that. And now you have your muffins that you can individually wrap them. You could freeze some, keep some in your fridge. You've got that to go for the week. And it's a way that you're like squeezing all these veggies into there. If you are doing a smoothie and you're just a smoothie person, take that coffee out of it and you're doing a fruit smoothie in the morning. Make sure you've got a source of protein, Greek yogurt or something, even cottage cheese works well in there. Adding a handful of spinach or kale. If you had your eyes closed, you wouldn't even know it's in there. If you open your eyes, it's going to be either bright green or murky green, depending on the other ingredients that are in there, but you don't taste it. But it's an easy way to add a couple of handfuls in there that you can kind of slip that in the morning, and you're getting the protein in that smoothie as well. So all these things I kind of just rattled off. These are ways that are very organic ways that you're still maybe doing the same type of thing. You're just bending it a little bit and doing either a different type of ingredient in there, or you're adding something else, but it's just bent a little bit, and we can easily dial back some of those sugars and slip in some of that protein. So with that, Maria, what else would you add for adding protein to your diet, your breakfast that we didn't cover?
You really hit everything. You said it. I mean, you hit cottage cheese at the end there too. I think that covers a lot of it. I don't know if I would even venture to add anything. You really did a really nice job.
The cottage cheese thing, y'all, if you're like, stop it, you lost me at cottage cheese. Have you had people say like, it looks like somebody else already ate it?
Yes.
You know, they're like, oh, that's horrible. When you puree cottage cheese, it becomes very smooth and creamy. But the thing about cottage cheese is it really has a neutral taste. It's the appearance and texture that grosses people out. So if you are putting cottage cheese into your smoothie, if you don't like the tartness that yogurt gives, cottage cheese really serves a similar purpose. Very neutral, still really high protein like Greek yogurt. And once you're blending it, you won't know. Our cafe at Ochsner Fitness Center, we have a fuel cafe and market inside of our fitness center over on Clearview at Ochsner Fitness Center. And they do an amazing job of grab and go lunches, and they do this really fantastic bolognese. Our team had it yesterday for our lunch at our strategy meeting, and they do the prepared meals, fuel. The bolognese is creamy because they put cottage cheese in it. And you would be like, who the heck wants bolognese with cottage cheese? But when it's pureed like that, it just added that nice creaminess, which is fantastic. So don't shun the cottage cheese until you try it. There are plenty of other options.
Yes. Okay, so can we switch audio so that my camera comes up? We had an interesting chat conversation.
You okay, let's just keep my audio.
They can't see me.
Oh, they can't see
so we're just
you.
gonna go here.
Oh, she said.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, so we're here. Thank you for fixing it. So I'm going to try not to even look at myself because I have two things going right now. So I'm going to tell you a very brief story, which is that I used to think oatmeal was awful because I would make it and then my stomach would feel like this 30 minutes later. I'd be hungry. And the frustrating part of it is that I would, kind of just like want to keep eating. And then I would eat and eat and eat, and I would never feel full. And what was I missing? I was missing protein. So here we go. We are going to make an oatmeal that tastes delicious, that you're actually going to want to eat. It takes about 3 to 4 minutes to prep at most if you're taking your time. And you're going to find that it is really filling. It might be more filling than you're used to. Maybe you start with just eating half. Here's our finished product here. This is a pretty decent size of overnight oats. Probably wondering what on earth is in there. It doesn't look like your classic looking oatmeal. It certainly is not your grandma's oatmeal. And it's not an instant. So let's kind of walk through what kind of oats do I use? Why do I use them? And the idea is little enhancements, like nutritional enhancements. We're not changing anything. We're not doing anything that is going to, break the bank or break our taste buds. We want to go small changes. So one small change you can make is buying rolled or old-fashioned oats. These say naturally gluten-free because oats are typically naturally gluten-free. And so what we get the benefit of with rolled or old-fashioned oats is a little bit more fiber. There's less processing done by machinery and more processing done by our body. So we get the benefit of bringing those delicious fibers into our body that feed our microbiome, and those happy organisms repopulate. So we want them to be able to continue to populate, that keep us healthy, strong, feeling energized. So choosing the right oats is also part of this conversation. So I like rolled oats. You could do something like a steel cut, but that's going to require you to cook them over the counter. This is the best option, I think, for overnight oats, which is going to give you the option to just pop it in the fridge and go to sleep. Instant oats will get very mealy, almost dissolved in this. So I would avoid using instant oats for 5-minute or quick oats. So here we are with our rolled oats. And what we're going to do is just take a half cup portion. You might find that, oh, half a cup never keeps me full or never keeps me energized. But we're going to add more to this. That's going to allow you to get a solid meal here, like a couple hundred calories of really nutritious foods. So we're going to start with a half a cup of our oats. And it is a one pot, if you will, or a one container meal here. So everything's going to go into our mason jar. So in our oats go right here. Oats provide carbohydrates, a little tiny bit of fat, a little bit of protein, like 6 grams or so in that, which is nothing too shabby. But we're going to add more. We're going to add more because we need some heart healthy fats to keep us feeling satiated. We need some more protein. And so the easiest way for me to add that is chia seeds. I call chia seeds nutritional confetti. You can sprinkle them on anything and you really don't taste them, but I will warn you, you will need a little spot check in the mirror for your teeth. I almost ate chia seed pudding before my dentist appointment this morning. I decided to give my dentist a solid favor and not do that. So in terms of how much, so we want to ensure that we aren't getting too crunchy or too thick or too wet of an oatmeal. So for your oats, I usually say between a tablespoon or 2 of chia seeds. Y'all, you can take a spoonful and you can just measure it. You don't
show them out.
Oh, sure. So they're super tiny. Why are they're super tiny and yet kind of high? You look at it like 120 calories for 2 tablespoons. Why? Because they are nutritionally dense. This little tiny seed packs a lot of micronutrients, a lot of fat, and that's going to help us feel energized throughout the day. And long term, it's also going to help us get off that blood sugar roller coaster that oats sometimes make us feel. So we added our chia seeds. And what I'm going to do, I always prep my overnight oats with a chopstick. It's just easier than like the spoon getting all messed up. So I give it a nice stir. Okay. And so from here, I'm going to add my liquid of choice. So I went with a dairy milk with A2, which is just a regular 2% milk is what we used. You could use an ultra filtered for extra protein. You could use a soy milk if you wanted protein, but plant-based. You could also use almond milk, maybe almond milk with a little bit of collagen in it. You could use something, but my recommendation here is to emphasize that this is just your liquid. It's not going to be your source of sweet. We're going to get there. So I would opt for something that is unsweetened if you're going to go with a plant-based milk. So I simply pour it in. How much? I do 1 cup of milk to a half cup of oats. And I just swirl it up. If you like your oatmeal very chunky or thick, you can be sure to decrease that, maybe 3/4 of a cup. Okay, so I give it a good stir and then I wait. I wait because all the chia seeds are going to come to the top. Molly, if you want to go in there and show. You don't have both of us pulled up. Make sure you can see both of us here. Here, we're going to see all the chia seeds come to the top. I'm going to give it another stir. And while I'm here, I'm going to start to add my other liquid ingredients that help make it a little bit sweet. So while they aren't sugary, they help create a feeling of sweetness on our tongue. First is cinnamon. So what I'm showing you here is the base of every overnight recipe I make. They all have cinnamon and they all have just a little poop of vanilla extract. And that's going to create a taste that kind of brings, kind of reminds you like baking a cake or baking cookies here, and give it a really good stir. The cinnamon will be tough to stir down to the bottom. So you just want to give it maybe in the shape of a W. That probably help. Okay. And this is where the fun starts, where you can start making fun recipes. So if I wanted to go with apple pie, I would maybe add some pecans, just a couple pecans, and some chopped apple. I'm really short on time and I want to do something simple. Maybe I do a little spoonful, half a tablespoon of peanut butter and some strawberries. And then I have peanut butter and jelly oats. Today, I'm making my favorite recipe, which is a lemon blueberry pound cake. And it just really brings in all of these memories of eating pound cake in my grandmother's house, lemon kind of vibe to it, maybe some lemon zest on the top, and blueberries, of course. So for this, you can zest a lemon, but if I'm being honest and I'm running to a meeting with Molly, I'm not zesting any lemons the night before. I'm just going to take half a lemon. I always have one in my fridge. You probably do too. And I just give it a good squeeze.
Maria, when you're looking at mixing it up, if someone doesn't have a chopstick,
A fork, a spoon.
but could you also shake it?
You could shake it. You would put your lid on and shake it.
There's not a reason not to.
Yeah,
Okay.
There's no reason not to. Give it a stir. So I have my lemon. And then I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of fruit. I find that a 1/4 cup is a pretty solid amount. So it's not too fruity. It's not too oatmeal-y. It really gives you what you need. And give it a stir. Looks like I have all of my ingredients here. And so now I'm going to take a step back and just pause for a moment. So I have here a perfectly solid overnight oatmeal recipe. I have 1/2 cup of oats, tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of chia seeds, just depends on how much you like. I have a 1/4 cup of fruit, a cup of milk of your choice. You could do water, y'all, but I don't recommend it for flavor purposes. And you're also losing an opportunity to add some extra nutrients. I used a little bit of cinnamon, just a couple shakes. It probably comes out to less than a 1/4 teaspoon, very, very small amount of cinnamon, and just a drop of vanilla extract for sweetness. Here's where I can up the ante, where I can go a little bit further. So yes, I can put my lid on and I can call it a day, shake it up, put it in the fridge overnight. I made this last night at 9:22. I looked at the clock. I was like, I gotta get in bed. And this took me, a few minutes to make. And it comes out looking like it did sit in the car in a nice icy lunchbox that I had ready. This looks a little bit liquidy, kind of like that. I think a perfect oatmeal consistency. I also, spoiler alert, used frozen fruit. So I do have a little bit more liquid in here than maybe I normally would with a regular fruit that doesn't produce a lot of water overnight, such as blueberries with that thick skin. Changing colors a little bit, which I think is fun. So everybody's asking you, what is that purple breakfast you're eating? And so it's very simple. Now, if you put it in longer, you put them in the fridge up to 3 or 4 days. I wouldn't put them in any longer. Additionally, if you don't have a very strong seal, I also wouldn't leave it in much longer than a day. Like using tinfoil and a rubber band, that's okay, maybe a day or 2. You really want that locked seal. What else could I add to this to up the ante? I have some Chobani that I pulled right out of the fridge. So this is a less sweet Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt, non-fat, plain, a little bit tart. I don't mind it. Some people really do. This is a great option for you if you would typically add honey or maple syrup or sugar to your oatmeal. This gives you the option to add sweetness. And y'all, we're adding 12 grams of protein with an entire container. Maybe you're only going to add 2 or 3 spoonfuls here just to thicken it. And that's going to make it really incredibly creamy and very flavorful because you're getting just a little bit of fat as well. Additionally, you could add, here it comes again, cottage cheese. I added that to my original that I ended up eating here. And what I loved about it is I actually really enjoyed the consistency. And it brought in just a little bit of fat for that added protein. And I wasn't hungry until lunchtime. And lunchtime is different for everyone, right? We don't always have to eat at 11 and 12. But I really felt like I was satiated. And there's nothing more frustrating than sitting at your desk and there's that rumble of your hunger coming at you, and then you're distracted. You're not able to focus. We want to be able to have all the best energy to do the work that you do every day. So that pretty much covers our overnight oat recipe. I get lots of questions about them, and I want you to remember that there's no wrong way to do this. The one thing you need to know is proportions. So it's double the amount of liquid to the amount of oats, 1 to 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. You can add things, sprinkle in some nuts, sprinkle in some nut butter. The key here is just to not sprinkle in everything in your pantry. So focusing on some key nutrients that are going to provide you with fiber, fat, protein, carbohydrates, and of course, our favorite ingredient is flavor, right? Feeling good about it.
Can you do one more rundown of the ratio of everything?
Yes, of course. So ratio, 1/2 cup of oats to 1 cup of milk gives you that sort of creamy consistency. If you like liquidy oats or milk. If you like thick oats, 3/4 cup, especially if you're going to add Greek yogurt, that's going to add to that creaminess. If you wanted to do just chia seeds, chia seed pudding is also a great option that we could have demoed today. We opted for a little bit of a combo for more nutrients. You just did chia seeds, it's, I think, 1/4 cup of chia seeds to a cup. So knowing that they're super dense, right? Super little. So when it comes to your oats, really just that 1/2 cup to 1 cup. And you make the rules here. It should taste good, taste of your caliber, but know that you don't need to add a lot of sugar to it for it to taste good. That vanilla extract and cinnamon are going to absolutely blow your mind when you have it. Like, wow, that goes a long way.
Fantastic. I love it. And I hope that the camera skills or the close-ups of what Maria was doing, I hope that was helpful and not distracting to you guys. I saw that we had a question from Rika about smoothies, and Rika's question about smoothies was, are smoothies good at breakfast, like in addition to breakfast, Or
That's
should
a
we
great
limit them to
question.
one a day? And I think there's like, that's like a big, like, it depends answer. And so if someone, let's just say someone's trying to gain weight and they're looking for ways that they can add like nutrient dense calories through their day without being so full, I'm thinking like what comes to mind is like, just especially younger athletes, they're really struggling to keep enough calories in to fuel their bodies. Then yes, adding a smoothie really almost to every meal or snack, if that becomes their beverage almost that they're drinking with that meal, that's not a bad thing. The majority of the population though doesn't usually need to double dip there. And if you're making a smoothie that is hefty enough, that has your protein source, your liquid that might be whatever your milk or milk alternative is, your fruits, maybe some of those veggies or nuts or nut butters we talked about, the nutritional value of that is going to be similar to a meal. And we're putting things in there that are going to give us the similar benefits of a meal. And so, yes, if you are having, maybe you do that egg muffin on the go we talked about and a piece or two of whole grain bread, then if you're putting that smoothie with it, now we're kind of doubling up on the carbs, the protein, the calories, etc. So it's not a bad thing, especially if someone is looking for extra, but it's typically not necessary. I do think that a lot of times if someone is going to maybe a smoothie shop, they're buying a smoothie, or a lot of juice bars now have smoothies also. So the juice bar might have just fresh vegetable juice and it's very low everything. But then they've got these smoothies that are just really high in sugars. And yeah, maybe it's from fruits and stuff like that, but it might be a 700, 800 calorie smoothie in some of these because maybe there's not a lot of ice and it's just packed with all fruits. Be aware of that, because if you're doing that, okay, I need to make sure I'm adding enough protein to that to be my meal. And we probably don't need to also then stop and pick up a sandwich to go with that. So Rika, I hope that answers. It's a giant, it depends. Anything that to add that?
I would just say when you're making smoothies at home, a big tripping point I see folks get into is peanut butter. And so really wanting to mask the flavor of a smoothie. Oh, I don't like fruits and vegetables, so I'm going to make this big smoothie. I'm going to put a ton of peanut butter in. Those things, like, remember the chia seeds, the nuts, the nut butters, you need a small amount to get a very, pretty hefty amount of calories because they're very concentrated, and that's what makes them wonderful. But it's also something we need to be aware of, because we could be making a much bigger smoothie, getting many more calories than we realize, when we could be having a more balanced breakfast with the cheese toast and the egg whites.
So we had two other questions in the Q&A. So one is from Rich about bacon. He loves bacon. So do we. What are the different bacon choices, other meat options for breakfast? I'll take that one. Maria, if you can get the next one,
Sure.
That's like, how do you add more protein to breakfast if you're vegan?
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit about vegan protein options, but there's definitely more we can touch on. To Rich's question about bacon. So I love really good crispy bacon, and I like it really crispy. You too?
I'm a very crispy bacon fan.
There's a restaurant here. I won't say which restaurant it was, but they have a lot of grilled seafood and stuff like that. Well, my husband opted for a sandwich that had whatever kind of grilled seafood, but then it also had bacon in there. And I, of course, stole a piece of the bacon, and it was the best crispy bacon. Well, one of the guys from the kitchen came out, and he happened to be sitting at the next table talking to someone next to us. And I said, "Oh my gosh, this is the best, crispiest bacon I've ever had. How do you get it so crispy?" I'm thinking, I'm like so ready for his secret because I want to be able to do this to him. He said, "Oh, we deep fry it." And I was like, huh. That wasn't what I was hoping to hear. I was hoping there's some press he was using that was giving this real crisp texture. I thought, I don't think I have it in me to deep fry the bacon. So Rich, I'm with you. Like, we love it. The option, now the bad news on bacon, but it's not just bacon. It's like bacon, it's sausage, whether it's turkey bacon, chicken sausage, or regular pork bacon or sausage. It is, those processed and cured meats are a carcinogen. And that is like, it's like wonk wonk. I know it's terrible. It's like horrible news. But when we say, well, what does that mean that it's a carcinogen? That's a class 1 carcinogen. That means that there's cancer causing compounds in these that are in the same category as a class 1 carcinogen as tobacco and asbestos. So when we think of it in that way, it's like, So even if we were to say, well, some of the healthier options might be chicken sausage at breakfast because it's lower in saturated fat, or there's center cut bacon, which might still be pork bacon. It can still crisp up like that, but the center cut has a lot less fat. Those are options that absolutely, I would say, they are lower in the animal fats. I love chicken sausage. There you can get it at so many different stores. There's a lot that also have like no nitrites and nitrates in there. So I do love chicken sausage. There's a lot of different flavors and varieties, and it's lower saturated fat. And my choice for bacon is typically center cut bacon. If I'm going to be recommending one that's a little bit lighter, lower, I find the turkey bacons just don't crisp up as much. There are different vegan and plant-based bacons, but you definitely know that it's that. So I would say center cut bacon or chicken sausage are kind of two of my favorites for like healthier versions of those. Even with those though, we really want to say, try to limit it to where it's at least not something that's your everyday. If you were like, oh, I like doing that on weekends, it's sort of like my Saturday treat. Is it ideal? Well, no, because of the fact that they're that in that category. But I would definitely say it's one of those things like, if it's something that truly brings you pleasure and maybe you used to have it a lot, and you kind of dial it back and it is that every once in a while thing, then I think that would be totally fine. So it's probably not the answer you were hoping to hear, but there you go.
And when it comes to having a plant-based or vegan style of eating at breakfast I think is one of the hardest meals to work with because there are so many great options in terms of, plant-based substitutes that like you can throw soy chorizo into a lunch or something like that, make that really easy. When it comes to breakfast, I think of two S's. I think of soy and I think of seeds. So your soy options would be maybe your soy milk and your overnight oats. There's an incredible new product from Silk that is, I'm not sponsored by Silk, but it is a black carton and it has 20 grams of protein in a cup. It's kind of like a super filtered soy milk. So that would be an awesome option, especially if you need that additional protein in your diet. Sometimes we think, oh, vegans, vegetarians are not getting enough protein, but they're actually doing quite all right. They're just eating a different composition in their meals. Maybe they're eating more frequently throughout the day. Other soy options in the morning could be just regular soy milk. It could also be a tofu scramble. Adding a little turmeric to that, cumin, a little spicy, a little sriracha drizzle on that, with some peppers and maybe some potatoes. It's going to provide you with a nice wholesome option, or you can have a slice of toast if you don't want potatoes, but something, a wholesome option that's going to give you carbs, protein, fat, and those vegetables as well. I find that you can mix more veggies in the morning when you use, a tofu option like that. Additionally, I think of seeds. So your seeds, while I did mention how they are calorically dense, nutrient dense, and they have a lot of fat, they also pack a lot of protein. So that's why I added the chia seeds to my oatmeal. So chia seeds, flax seeds, and hemp seeds, even sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds could be something that you are adding into your daily routine. Again, it's like nutritional confetti, just a little bit goes a long way. And that's going to provide you with antioxidants, provide you with lots of vitamins, minerals, and also some protein where you weren't getting it before, because it's not just about, I need 20 grams of protein at breakfast. Maybe you're currently getting 5 and getting 10 is going to help you feel so much better. Or, I don't really eat protein at breakfast, but just adding a little bit, enhancing it, right? Just a little bit at a time is going to ensure that you get what you need. Slowly over time, you're going to feel better, maybe more recovered from working out if you are someone who exercises. So those would be my two big categories. Anything that you would add?
So on the milk category, I think there's the pea-based protein,
Mm-hmm.
so PEA protein. There's several different brands of it. My favorite is the Ripple.
Yes.
You know what I say about that? It's like one of those, not everyone like remembers or maybe watched Sanford and Son, but if you did, I don't remember this, but when I first was like so excited about this Ripple, this pea protein based milk, it has 8 grams of protein, which is like regular cow's milk. Soy milk, as Maria said, is also high in protein, typically 6, but the Black Label brand of Silk, 20 grams. So still 8 grams of protein for this Ripple milk is really good. It's like regular milk when almond milk or coconut milk have 0 or 1. So when I was like talking about Ripple one day, and then someone said, that was like, I can't remember if it was the cheap wine or cheap liquor. I think it was the cheap wine that Fred Sanford used to drink all the time on Sanford and Son. So I'm like, well, that's an easy way to remember it if you're familiar with that. So I do think the Ripple protein, and then just reiterating on the yogurt, that there's a lot of the plant-based yogurts. If you are a cereal eater, there's a cereal that's not in stores, unfortunately, but if you're an online person, K's Naturals, and they have little O's. It's sort of like Cheerios style. They have like honey almond, they have an apple cinnamon. Those are a soy protein based cereal, and they come in a box, like a normal cereal box, but they also come in little packets. So if you do a lot of people with cereals specifically may not trust themselves on portion control. So that can kind of help as well. So those are something that, again, are plant-based vegan options.
Yeah, those cereals are incredible.
They are.
Yes, I really like them.
Yeah. So hopefully that helps for that vegan breakfast question. I don't think that we have any more questions. I don't think we have anything more in the chat. So I think last we're going to talk about coffee creamers. I have to take just a quick second to get out of my fridge, the one that we just have on hand here. If we can take a second, if anyone wants to put in the chat what your favorite coffee creamer is, like what you use, or especially maybe if you're trying, like what do you do when you're trying to be healthy? What's your creamer of choice? We'll take a quick second to get that. And yours too, Maria.
Great.
Well, let's get a short down before we okay. Let's see if any answers. Anybody put your okay? I see a lot of stuff happening here. Oh, flax milk. The Flax Plus. Look at Mauricio. Do you know Mauricio? Mauricio is a registered dietitian.
Yes.
Yeah, and he is coming in strong as the RD. So flax milk with protein. I don't know. I think Mauricio, that might have actually. I don't know if that was Mauricio's response to other plant-based protein sources, because the Flax Plus protein is either 8 or 10 grams of protein in a cup. Flax milk doesn't, but the fact that they add protein, it's fantastic. That also could be what Mauricio puts in his coffee. I'm not sure. And then Coretta says she takes her coffee black, so we don't have anything there. I'm wondering if anybody does the powdered creamers. Can we do like a thumbs up or like a raise your hand if you do the powdered creamers? Any other? Okay, hazelnut and stevia. Rika, I'm curious about your hazelnut. If it's hazelnut creamer, like hazelnut creamer, if it's a sugar-free or fat-free hazelnut creamer. Wait a second, Rika. So we have no powdered creamer, some are saying.
We got Matt, Team Black Coffee.
Matt is Team Black Coffee. Matt and Coretta Yeller, I can easily get y'all coffee. It's no special orders there. And let's see, did anybody? Okay, so Rika is, thank you, Rika. We were hoping someone would come in with this. So Rika, is yours like, is it like, what brand, if you happen to know? Is it one of the like plant-based brands, or is it like International Delight or one of these? We'll start with Mauricio. Mauricio stole our thunder in the chat section, but Mauricio is completely right. So the powdered creamers, if someone is using powdered creamers are corn syrup solids. I wouldn't say period because there's other ingredients in there, but it is corn syrup solids and also the hydrogenated, partially hydrogenated oils that Mauricio talks about. So if you are a powdered coffee mate person, my mom was a powdered coffee mate person like nobody's business. And you're doing it because the nutrition facts maybe say 10 calories. That's 10 calories for a little smidge that most people are putting a lot more than that. It is basically corn syrup solids, sugar solids of some sort, and then hydrogenated oils, powdered creamer out of there. The reason we were picking on Rika so much is, and we were trying to prompt, is it International Delight? Right. These flavored creamers and I would say just regular grocery stores, like if you're like at a traditional grocery store and you see the flavored creamers that are sugar-free, they're artificially sweetened. If they're fat-free, they're full of sugar. And so most flavored creamers are not fantastic. Rika did say she's getting her hazelnut creamer at Whole Foods, so it may be one like what Maria is about to show. So it sounds like y'all are doing a pretty good job on coffee creamers, I'll say. And at least the ones who answered are. On the topic of coffee drinks, if you are a coffee shop, coffee drink person, be really aware of what the sugar is that's going into that. If you go to a local coffee shop and they do not have the nutrition facts of that fancy drink, but maybe something similar to that is at Starbucks, even if you're not going to Starbucks, but you get a caramel macchiato at whatever local place, look up the nutrition facts at a place like Starbucks. So they may not be exact, but they'll be similar. And that'll let you see, holy smokes, that drink that I'm having has 40 grams of sugar or whatever it is, because that can really slip in. But when we're doing coffee at home, Maria has her favorites.
Sure.
I have mine.
Yeah. If I can add one thing about coffee at coffee shops too, we have a couple EatFit coffee shop partners. So French Truck Coffee, Coast Roast Coffee, PJ's. We have, I feel like there's one more that I'm maybe forgetting. French Truck, yep.
You said French Truck, Coast Roast, PJ's. There's another, but sorry.
Cafe and
Yes.
Chateau Cafe. So you can look up the nutrition facts of those. And we actually have some that are not just plain coffee, which is awesome. So when it comes to coffee at home, I used to be a religious black coffee drinker. Then I was drinking so much coffee at home. I started to get like a little into like, all right, well, maybe I can get into like my Nespresso and I can have some fun creamers. And I found nut pods and I really enjoy them. So I have two for you. I have their classic, I'll bring it over to you. Their classic label. It's this green label and it's an almond milk, coconut milk combo. So it makes it really creamy. One thing about almond milk in coffee is it can kind of disintegrate. Sometimes if it's in cold coffee, it just drops to the bottom, right? So the added fat here is going to allow it to mix really nicely. And the flavors are all naturally added. So it's not anything you have to worry about in terms of like, is it a weird chemical? Is it something that's going to make me feel gross? Is it something that's going to make my stomach hurt? This one is spiced chai and I actually really like it in coffee. It has a little bit of a dirty chai flavor. They have lots of flavors, classic vanilla, hazelnut, all that good stuff, caramel, and you can get them at Whole Foods. You can get them at most grocery stores. You can also order them online. If you're allergic to nuts, a lot of their nut pods, they do have a nut-free variation, and that's their oat creamer. And so it's very, it's one of those situations like Molly said, it's 10 calories and 0, 0, 0, 0 all the way down. That doesn't mean it's a free-for-all. It also means you're not getting much out of it. So in terms of flavor and consistency, it is going to be just like an oat milk. So my preference is the almond and coconut variations, and I find that they mix in really well.
We did, I did a podcast where we sampled out a lot of the flavors, a lot of the varieties of the plant-based creamers. So the person who's asking about vegan breakfast options, we say plant-based creamers, translation also vegan creamers. So I did a taste test of these and I lined up a lot of them because we did a TV segment with it and a podcast with it and like lined them up, put them, we have a milk frother that's like, so how do they froth? How do they taste? How do they hold up in coffee? Because a lot of them, the plant-based creamers, sort of just like Maria was saying with just regular almond milk, if you like cream in your coffee, that almond milk just doesn't cut it. It's so thin in there and it just kind of separates and does weird things. So a lot of these plant-based creamers, and I went through them all because I had bought them for this taste test. I was like, I don't want to waste them. So I was using them in my coffee and I couldn't wait to get through some of them. So I was like, I just don't enjoy this as much. They were thin. They didn't hold up. They didn't froth well. The nut pods of all the plant-based creamers were my favorite because they have a nice body to it. They froth well. They perform well in the coffee, similar to what we would expect from a regular traditional creamer. And so this might be a surprise to you guys, half and half. And you might be like, what the heck? I can't even believe you're saying half and half. And kind of like Maria was saying, it's not a free-for-all with any of these. But when we look at what 2 tablespoons is, and a lot of people might only need 1 tablespoon to kind of lighten their coffee. For 2 tablespoons, it's only 2 grams saturated fat, 40 calories. So per tablespoon, we're looking at 20 calories, 1 gram saturated fat. And it's just pure ingredients. There's nothing wacky that's in here. It's just half and half. This is just the brand that we happen to have from the store. It could be others, and there's local brands and all that. So doesn't have to be complicated, so just a tablespoon or 2 of half and half, totally fine. If you want to go the plant-based route, the nut pods are our recommendation for quality, for texture, for doing well and keeping us happy with our coffee. So I think we're probably getting close on time. I don't know if we have any other questions. Alex or Coretta, is there anything that you guys have that we want to cover or any other things to answer?
Hi, I just wanted to thank you both for sharing all of your expert tips today. I just love the recipe that you shared, and I'm honestly just so impressed that you packed so much information into this session. I'm so glad that we recorded it because I'm definitely going to be going back to check on the recipe and stuff like that again, and we will post online. But the last couple minutes, we have about 6. If anybody does have any questions, we can open it up for Q&A. But if not, then we can close early. In terms of Q&A, you can submit through the Q&A or the chat, but also if you raise your hand, I can unmute you so you can ask your question verbally as well. So I'm happy to do that too. I'll just give it a minute
Yeah,
for
let's look around.
everybody. Yeah, we'll just give it a minute. But thank you both for everything.
Yes, it's been fun. Thank you. And Mauricio, we miss seeing you. I hope we get to see you soon, if Mauricio is still here with us.
He is. Let's see. Here's a question. It says, I missed part of this webinar. Do you have any suggestions for super tasters? I hate most veggies.
I could take a little bit of that and then Maria add on if so. So at first we were like super tasters, but the fact that you hate most veggies, you're probably, my guess is that you're perceiving them as like really bitter, like you're very sensitive to that. What's interesting is like, as kids, a lot of times kids don't like vegetables and then they end up liking them later. There's the number of times they're exposed to that vegetable, and it's sort of like, you know, the kind of rule of thumb is it can take at least 15 times for a kid to be exposed to a vegetable and actually like it. But separate from that, there's like a physiological thing that happens. So when you know, from babies to toddlers, our taste buds are they're sensitive. They're brand new. They're picking up on everything. And the older we get, they do get desensitized to some degree. So what maybe used to be almost just like not palatable because of the bitterness of a vegetable, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years later, you're like, oh, I used to really hate this. Now I like it because it's desensitized. So it seems like from your question, that doesn't happen. So you're still picking up on the bitterness. There's two things that, and you see this in restaurants all the time, two approaches that can kind of help to neutralize that bitterness. One is sugar, one is fats. And so we don't necessarily want to add a lot of sugar to your vegetables, of course, but when we look at, okay, well, fats, well, what would that mean? If you wanted to add creaminess with a plant-based fat, like a coconut cream, or olive oil. So adding those fats into your vegetables or even cheese. So you may not want to add a lot of cheese, but if adding some cheese gets you to eat that spinach or broccoli, like I would take that. And it might be that it's grated and melted on there. It might be some Parmesan ground onto it. One thing that's like kind of just an old school way that a lot of people like it is something like a cream cheese or a reduced fat cream cheese. You can blend that with a bit of yogurt and mix that through the spinach and make it like a creamy spinach. We actually take the 2% Greek yogurt and make a spinach dip with it. So sort of how you would take a dip packet and use sour cream and make it like a ranch dip, and you almost kind of similar approach, but making it with spinach. So if you take your favorite spinach dip recipe, and it might call for sour cream and mayonnaise, and you're in a spinach dip recipe traditionally, make it with a 2% Greek yogurt, and that could be a way to maybe have your spinach and artichoke. You could almost do like a variation of that heated, and that's where a little bit of that cream cheese can come in and helps to kind of like give it that creaminess. With sugar, again, that's not something that we want to add a lot of to vegetables. I've had people tell me like they've really complained that like maybe a spouse or like a grandmother or grandfather is adding a tablespoon of sugar to a pot of vegetables, like say cabbage. And they'll say, oh my God, can you believe like they put a spoonful of sugar? I'm kind of like, I don't care. Because if we're talking a big pot of vegetables here, that's that old grandma's secret.
Right.
It neutralizes the bitterness and it gets people to like it. So there are a lot of different plant-based sweeteners too that you can use that are no calorie, add the sweetness, but they're basically natural plant-based sweeteners. But again, if someone had just a spoonful of real sugar and a lot of vegetables, if that kind of helps us do the trick. You could also, of course, use something like honey or something else through there. We're not, we don't want people to go out and buy sugar just to put in your vegetables. So whatever you have that you're normally sweetening things with around your house, that might be a healthier option. See about putting that in that big pot of whatever that cooked vegetable is. Sometimes too, I find like roasting, like when I was younger, my dad would do squash that was steamed and soft and yeah. And then when I had it roasted and grilled, that kind of a little bit of that grill flavor on the vegetables kind of takes over.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just add the idea, if the idea of like adding things to your vegetables feels like it's discounting the nutritional value, know that a salad with dressing, it's still a salad, and Brussels sprouts with a, you know, a maple vinegar drizzle, there's still Brussels sprouts under there. And so if you are struggling with getting more vegetables in, whether you're a super taster or not, you just aren't into vegetables, know that, you know, a little dip or a little dressing. We love Hanley's dressings. There's lots of EatFit approved dressings in our grocery stores in the area. You can find a way to enhance your vegetable intake and still feel good about it. So don't let anybody make you feel like you have to eat raw vegetables for it to count.
Good point. And Maria mentioned the Hanley's dressing. So if y'all aren't familiar, Hanley's is based out of Baton Rouge. They're a local company. The salad dressings, you'll find them at like Whole Foods, but also Rouse's, Rover's, Walmart, yeah, even Costco. And they have everything from, they have like an avocado vinaigrette. They have a sensation salad. I like those, yes, on salads, but also on cooked vegetables, because even if you had like, say, wilted down spinach, if you put a little bit of that avocado vinaigrette through there, it kind of just adds something interesting to it. So yeah, don't think that because you're layering something into it, you're not getting the benefit, or that you shouldn't. And don't, you know, we want you to like it because you're going to be more consistent with continuing to eat it if you like it.
Right. Yeah.
So good question. All right. Oh, well, thank you. This has been fun.
Thanks so much.
Great interaction from y'all. We'll see you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all again. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye.